Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel. Today, I want to go over something that really caught my attention. Data straight out of JP Morgan Chase's Guide to Retirement. So with all of that, let's do an example. Let's say we have a single income earner who made about $60,000 as an annual income. Let's take a moment and talk about this income. When we say that someone's income is $60,000 a year, we're also looking at this from the point of Social Security because it is that income that's used to determine what ultimately your Social Security benefit would be. So we're going to assume that our worker's income after indexing for inflation averaged out to be about $60,000 a year over the course of their working career. Let's also assume at the age of 65, they have the recommended portfolio from JP Morgan based on their income, so it would be $445,000 in investments. We will also assume that their initial withdrawal from their portfolio is 4.7% and that they're able to capture a 5.7% real rate of return on their investments, 8.1% nominal, 2.4% inflation. Now this is key. When they claim Social Security matters. If they want to retire at the age of 65 and their full retirement age is 67, they're going to receive a reduced benefit. If they wait to claim until the age of 67, they will receive what is considered full benefits. And if they delay claiming all the way up to the age of 70, they will receive a benefit that is 24% larger than it otherwise would have been at full retirement age. So let's do a walkthrough and see what their retirement income would be based on if they retired at the age of 65, at the age of 67, or delayed all the way to the age of 70. If they claim Social Security at 65, they would receive $23,700 a year in benefits. Their portfolio at this point would be $445,000. A 4.7 withdrawal would add about $21,000 to their income. So their first year income would be nearly $45,000 or about $3,700 a month. But what if they were to delay their retirement by 2 years and instead retire at the age of 67 or full retirement age? Not only would they receive a higher Social Security benefit, this would also give their portfolio 2 additional years of compounding. Here their portfolio would grow to just under $500,000, and using that same 4.7% withdrawal, they would have about $23,000 in income from their investments. Importantly, at this point, their Social Security benefit at full retirement age would be about $27,000 a year. Put that together, they now have an income that's closer to $51,000 a year, or about $4,200 a month. Now, what if they delayed their retirement all the way to 70? So they delayed claiming Social Security and also gave their portfolio an additional 5 years of compounding. Now their portfolio would be closer to $590,000. With a 4.7% withdrawal, they would be looking at nearly $28,000 a year in income simply from their investments, and their delayed Social Security benefit closer to $34,000 a year. These two items combined give them an annual income of over $61,000 or over $5,000 a month. The bottom line is if you wait longer, if you delay your retirement, it's likely that your investments will end up higher because they're given a greater time to compound, and guaranteed you'll have a higher Social Security benefit because that grows on a guaranteed basis as you delay. In this example, our individual actually ended up with an income by the time they were 70 that was more than their $60,000 pre-retirement income. Do they need that much? Well, it depends on the retirement they want. Often experts recommend that you have 80% of your pre-retirement income as a sustainable source of income in retirement, but it doesn't have to be based on a headline or an expert recommendation. What you need to know is what your expenses are and what your income sources are, and line those two up. If this individual were to use that 80% of pre-retirement income as a guideline, they'd be looking at a retirement income of about $48,000 a year. Again, general recommendation, not specific to this person's situation. But if you do retire completely debt-free, say you go into retirement with a completely paid off home and no other debts to speak of, and your kids are completely financially independent and not relying on you as an income source, it's very likely once you get to retirement, your expenses will go down. Now let's do another example. We're going to do a dual income earning household where each spouse earned $75,000 a year over their career, inflation adjusted. In this situation, if each spouse were to claim Social Security at their full retirement age of 67, they'd receive roughly $32,000 a year in benefits, so nearly $64,000 a year combined. If they both decided to claim early at the age of 62, they'd be looking at roughly $23,000 a year each. Or if they delayed all the way up to the age of 70, roughly $40,000 a year each in benefits. Now, using the JP Morgan recommendation for a savings target at 65 based on this household income of $150,000 a year, they recommend having $1.28 million invested. Let's assume that this couple retires at the age of 65. They're willing to use a 4.7% withdrawal rate that gives them an income of $60,000 from their investments. Their combined Social Security at this point would be nearly $56,000 a year. So their household annual income would be close to $116,000 a year, or just under $10,000 a month. Now, if they decide to retire early and claim Social Security early, it means that their portfolio has fewer years of compounding, so we're working with a smaller portfolio and a reduced Social Security benefit. But if they decide to delay claiming, they're going to receive a higher Social Security benefit, and it's likely that their portfolio would be higher, allowing them to draw more. Let's say they want to retire at the age of 62. At this point, their draw from their portfolio might be closer to $55,000 a year, and their combined Social Security benefit about $45,000 a year, giving them an annual income of just over $100,000 a year, or about $8,300 a month. Or what if they wanted to retire together at full retirement age? Here, between their draw in their portfolio and their Social Security income, they'd be looking at a household income of about $132,000 a year. If they were to delay all the way to the age of 70, they'd have a household income closer to $160,000 a year. Again, context matters here. Does this couple really need a household income of about $160,000 a year in retirement if they never had that income during their working years? It's highly unlikely, especially if they go into retirement with a completely paid off home or they're debt-free. They would likely need much less. And if we go back to expert recommendations, they might only need somewhere near 80% of their income from their pre-retirement years to fully fund their desired life in retirement. So they would likely need something significantly less than $150,000 a year. But again, you don't want to base it just on a recommendation. You want to run your budget, figure out what your expenses are, and then make your income match that. And another thing really important to point out here, in this example, we had both individuals within this couple retire and claim Social Security at the exact same time. Of course, you don't have to do that. Coordinate with your spouse. Does one want to claim early? Does one want to do delayed claiming? It really depends on what your retirement is, what your risk tolerance is, how you want to stagger your benefits. So you both have some flexibility when you decide to claim Social Security, when you decide to retire. Make it work for you and your household. The overarching message here is you don't need an arbitrary $1 million to retire. JP Morgan's household checkpoints really give a realistic today's dollar target that matches your income and your age. Also, I'm going to make sure to link the report down below in case you want to read it. For middle and lower income earners, Social Security will be really more of a pillar in retirement. For higher income earners, they are expected to fund more of their retirement from their personal savings. But we also do want to say everyone should have savings to fall back on, and make sure when you create your withdrawal strategy that you remain flexible in your approach, because it's very unlikely that you're going to need to withdraw the same exact amount every single year. The part of this video that I really want everyone to hear is that even at more modest savings rates, like 5% or 10%, you can have an incredibly well-funded retirement. I really like these realistic benchmarks because if we can ground retirement numbers in reality, it makes it feel more accessible. It makes it feel more doable. But you do also have to make sure to remain consistent and continue saving throughout the course of your entire career if you want this plan to work. If you're willing to save more, well, then ultimately you're going to put yourself on a faster track to financial freedom and hopefully give yourself the option to step away from the workforce sooner if that's something you're interested in. But at the end of the day, it's not about chasing a headline. It's not about looking for a $1 million magic number in your bank account. It's about building a plan that works with your lifestyle and your income.